I've always been a city boy, but when my parents decided to retire in the small town of Silver Pine, I had no choice but to follow. The town was quaint, nestled between a dense forest and a serene lake. The people were friendly, but they had an odd tradition. Every full moon, they would lock their doors and windows, and no one would dare venture outside until dawn. I found it peculiar, but I shrugged it off as a small-town superstition. One night, under the full moon, I decided to break the unspoken rule. I was a rational person, not given to superstitions. I grabbed my flashlight and headed towards the forest. The moon was bright, casting long, eerie shadows that danced with every rustle of the wind. The forest was alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, but I pressed on, curiosity guiding my steps. Suddenly, a chilling howl echoed through the forest, freezing me in my tracks. It was a sound I had never heard before, a sound that made my blood run cold. I turned around to head back, but I was hopelessly lost. The once familiar path was now a labyrinth of shadows. Panic started to set in, but I forced myself to calm down. I decided to follow the moonlight, hoping it would lead me back to the town. As I trudged through the underbrush, a rustling sound came from behind me. I turned around, my flashlight illuminating a pair of glowing eyes. My heart pounded in my chest as a large, wolf-like creature emerged from the shadows. It was unlike anything I had ever seen, standing on its hind legs, its fur glistening under the moonlight. It was a werewolf, a creature of legend, standing right before my eyes. I was paralyzed with fear as the creature advanced towards me. I could see its sharp claws, its bared teeth glistening with saliva. I could feel its hot breath on my face, smell the metallic scent of blood. I closed my eyes, waiting for the inevitable. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed through the forest. The werewolf let out a pained howl and retreated into the shadows. I opened my eyes to see the town's sheriff, gun in hand, standing beside me. He helped me up and guided me back to the town, his stern face softened by concern. The next day, the town was abuzz with whispers and hushed conversations. I was the talk of the town, the city boy who had dared to venture out on a full moon night. The sheriff warned everyone not to repeat my foolishness, reinforcing the importance of the town's tradition. I was shaken, but I was also intrigued. I wanted to know more about the creature, about the town's history. I started visiting the town's library, poring over old books and newspapers. I discovered that Silver Pine was founded by werewolf hunters, and the tradition of staying indoors on a full moon night was a safety measure against the werewolves that still roamed the surrounding forest. My encounter with the werewolf had changed me. I was no longer the skeptical city boy. I had seen the creature, felt its presence. I respected the town's tradition, understanding its importance. I started writing about my experiences, sharing my stories with the world. I called it the Moonlit Diaries, a tribute to the town and its unique tradition. Every full moon, I would lock my doors and windows just like everyone else. But I would stay up, listening to the chilling howls echoing through the night, penning down my thoughts and experiences. I had become a part of Silver Pine, a part of its history and its tradition. The werewolf had instilled fear in me, but it had also sparked a curiosity, a fascination. I'd come to Silver Pine as a stranger, but now I was a part of its story, a part of its legacy. I was the city boy who had faced a werewolf and lived to tell the tale. And every full moon I would add a new chapter to my Moonlit Diaries, a testament to the town's eerie tradition and my unforgettable encounter with the werewolf.
I was an ordinary girl living in the small town of Pine Hollow. Life was simple until the night of my 16th birthday when I encountered the beast. It was a full moon and I was walking home from my birthday party. The path through the woods was a shortcut I'd taken countless times, but that night the woods felt different. The shadows seemed to dance and an eerie silence hung in the air. Suddenly a low growl echoed through the trees. My heart pounded as a creature emerged from the shadows. It was massive, with fur as black as the night and eyes that glowed a haunting red. It was a wolf, but it stood on its hind legs like a man, a werewolf. I ran, but the beast was faster. It lunged at me and I felt its claws dig into my arm. I screamed, the pain searing through me. Then everything went black. I woke up in my bed the next morning. The events of the previous night felt like a nightmare, but the deep, painful scratches on my arm were all too real. The town doctor said it was a wild animal attack, but I knew the truth. Over the next month, I felt myself changing. I was stronger, faster, and my senses were heightened. The small town life that once comforted me now felt suffocating. I was becoming something else, something terrifying. The next full moon confirmed my fears. I felt an unbearable pain rip through me as I transformed into the beast I'd encountered in the woods. I was the werewolf. I was horrified. Every full moon I would lock myself in the cellar, away from the town, away from the people I could hurt. But the beast within me was strong, and one night it broke free. I woke up the next morning covered in blood. The memories of the previous night were hazy, but the screams of my victims echoed in my ears. I'd attacked my own town, hurt the people I'd grown up with. I was a monster. I left Pine Hollow that day, vowing never to return. I live in isolation now, far away from any town. Every full moon I chain myself up, trying to protect the world from the beast within me. But the guilt haunts me. Every time I look at my reflection, I don't see the girl I once was. I see the beast, the werewolf that brought terror to Pine Hollow. I'm writing this as a warning. If you ever encounter a beast in the woods, run. Run and never look back. Because the curse of the werewolf is a real living nightmare, a horror story with no end.
It was supposed to be a fun road trip. Friends, a beat-up old van, and the open road. We were heading to a music festival in the next state over. But as the sun set and we drove through a desolate stretch of highway, our van sputtered and died. We tried everything to get the car started, but it was no use. We were stranded. The nearest town was miles away, and our phones had no signal. We decided to spend the night in the car and seek help in the morning. There were 5 of us: me, my best friend Jake, his girlfriend Lisa, our mutual friend Sarah, and her younger brother Danny. As darkness fell, an eerie silence enveloped us. The only sound was the rustling of the trees and the occasional hoot of an owl. Then we heard it, a low, guttural growl echoing through the night. We dismissed it as a wild animal, but then we saw the eyes, glowing yellow, watching us from the shadows. A chill ran down my spine as a massive creature emerged. It was a wolf, but it stood on its hind legs like a man, a werewolf. Panic set in. We were trapped in our car, a sitting duck for the beast prowling outside. We huddled together, praying for the night to end. But the werewolf had other plans. It lunged at the car, its claws scraping against the metal. We screamed as it shattered the back window, reaching inside. It grabbed Danny and dragged him out. His screams echoed through the night, then abruptly stopped. The werewolf had claimed its first victim. We were paralyzed with fear. We watched in horror as the werewolf disappeared into the woods, only to return an hour later. It was relentless, determined to get us. It attacked the car again. This time it ripped off the car door and grabbed Sarah. Her terrified screams still haunt my dreams. With 2 of our friends gone, we knew we had to do something. We couldn't just sit and wait for our turn. We decided to make a run for it. The town was miles away, but it was our only chance. We waited for the werewolf to leave, then bolted from the car. We ran through the dense forest, the underbrush scratching at our legs, our breaths ragged with fear. We could hear the werewolf behind us, its growls growing louder with each passing second. We ran until we saw lights in the distance. The town. We were almost there. But just as hope started to bloom, the werewolf attacked. It lunged at Jake, knocking him to the ground. But before it could do any more damage, a gunshot echoed through the night. The werewolf let out a pained howl and retreated. We turned to see a group of townsfolk, armed and ready. They'd heard our screams and come to help. We made it out alive, but our relief was tainted with the loss of our friends. We were survivors, but at what cost? As we caught our breath, leaning on the town's welcome sign, the group of townsfolk lowered their weapons. The man who seemed to be their leader, a grizzled older gentleman with a stern face, approached us. He reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out what appeared to be a silver bullet. "It takes silver to take down a werewolf," he said. "Y'all all right?" he asked, his voice gruff but not unkind. We lost our friends," Lisa managed to choke out between sobs. I was still too winded, too shocked to speak. "But how did you know? About the silver bullets?" I finally found my voice, my curiosity overcoming my fear. The man sighed, looking back towards the dense forest we just escaped from. "This ain't the first time we've had to deal with that beast," he began, his voice heavy with a mix of fear and resignation. "This town, it's got a history. Old legends about a creature in the woods, a man cursed to become a beast under the full moon. A werewolf. Now, with each rise of the full moon, the memories of that night flood back. The haunting glow of predatory eyes, the chilling growls that echoed in the darkness, the screams of terror from my friends that still ring in my ears. I recall the werewolf, the embodiment of our deepest fears. It's a stark reminder that monsters do exist, not merely as figments of our imagination, but in the harsh light of reality. And this chilling truth will cast a shadow over me for the rest of my days.